Real estate is a great form of video to shoot and can make you a lot of money. And today I'm going to teach you the most efficient way I've learned to shoot and operate. I want to start by saying that real estate is not my main hustle, but it's been a great side hustle that's kept me afloat when the wedding season is slow. I found this to be a good way of doing it where I can do it consistently, fast, and efficiently, and clients are happy. You will have that odd agent that wants something super specific or more flashy, but for me, time is money, and because this is not my main passion, I try to stay in that mid-tier market, as luxury listings are a whole other ball game that I'm not interested in. And honestly speaking, if you're gonna do luxury real estate videos, you have to really dedicate yourself to it to really be able to get the price point that you want. And with that being said, after doing real estate for 3 years, I think if your heart is not completely in it, then it's a quick race to the bottom of charging very little and not the greatest way you can make money doing video. I think the best thing you could do with real estate is scale the business so you have a small team to be able to meet the needs of your clients and also give yourself some work-life balance. If you're not looking to scale, then at the very least, outsource your editing so that you have a cutoff time and a good work-life balance for you and your family. This business is a very easy way to neglect self-care and burnout, so having systems in place is key to standing the test of time. Real estate in general is a fast-paced work environment, so you will be expected to shoot a video during the day and have it to the client the following morning. You could negotiate your way of doing business, but if you want to go with the industry standard, this is usually what companies are offering. If you can find a system where you have an editor overseas that you can count on and is consistent, then this will give you the best work-life balance possible. The style of shooting or editing I'm going to show you is for people starting out, so I'm not going to show you super advanced speed ramps. I'll show you a little bit of it. We will begin the video with showing you some actual footage with me explaining it, followed by an actual walkthrough shooting a house where I show you techniques and how to use the gear to execute everything. So let's talk about the psychology behind your edits. This is by no means a fancy way of shooting real estate, but I find it's a good place to start, and usually most people are happy with it. There are other styles where it's faster, has more speed ramps and unique transitions, possessing a more teaser perspective that's out of order, but I find more agents would complain about that style because the homeowners find it confusing, or it doesn't show the house well, or it's not going in a particular order where it's easy to follow. And honestly speaking, I would just try to do a style that kind of you can do consistently and more people are vibing with. And this is kind of the style I have, where I don't get a lot of people telling me to switch up and all that kind of stuff, and it's more clear cut and concise. I think the style I just mentioned before with like the fast cuts and all that, I think that's better for high-end houses where you know the potential buyer is going to be somebody a bit younger, that being a millennial or Gen Z adult. Those styles are great if you want to make a separate teaser reel for the agent, but as the main video, I find it can sometimes confuse the viewer and deter them from seeing the house in person. The style I'm going to show you in this video is showing the house in order with subtle movements and minor speed ramping. For me, I try to focus on, if I was the person walking through this house, how would I walk through it and what rooms would I go to first? Let's talk about exteriors and agent intros. The beginning of a video really sets the tone and draws the viewer in. If there's an agent intro where they talk on camera, then I usually try to show them first so the viewer knows who they are watching, followed by simple drone shots as we move closer to the house. By the time the agent is done talking, you should have a good intro and get them saying, "Let's go check it out," or something to that effect. If you don't have an agent intro, then I would start with the drone shots pointing the house out, followed by some exterior shots on the ground level. Let's talk interior shots of the house. When you go into the house, the next thing you want to show is the lobby area, and in terms of the next room to show, you usually decide on the kitchen or living room as your first highlighted room. Once you show that first shot of the room, the next thing you want to do is a little teaser shots that reveal details of the room you are shooting. This can include a stainless steel stove, fireplace, remote control blinds, or big windows that come with the house, or other unique details that really showcase the house in a positive way. I would save these shots for rooms that can benefit from it. For a kitchen, I try to keep it to no more than 4 shots if possible, and smaller rooms with no detail shots, I would say 2 shots. Bathrooms, you could show off details of a tub, sink, or shower head if it's worth showing. If it's outdated or not necessarily a highlight of the house, then just keep it to the 2-shot rule in that bathroom. It's usually en suites where you will show detailed shots of a bathroom. The last part that's questionable is usually the basement. Most agents will want you to show the basement if it's finished. I would always ask the agent if the basement is finished, and if it's not, always ask if they want it on camera anyway, as it takes less time to ask and do it than not do it and have to go back. Next thing I want to talk about is exteriors and then your agent outro. The last thing you want to show is the exteriors of the backyard, followed by the ending of the agent outro. I would start the agent outro audio during the last few shots of the backyard exteriors. If the agent has a phone number, email, or social media tag, I would include it in some animated text. This is a small thing, but it adds value and gives the viewer a call to action and makes it easy to contact the agent if they're actually interested in seeing the house. Depending on where this video goes, they may not always get a direct link to the contact information, so having it in the video is a great addition and just makes their life easy. If the agent has branding, be sure to include that at the very end of the video. If not, you can include an exterior shot of the front of the house or a drone shot before you fade to black. Shooting techniques. The first thing you need to learn when it comes to technique is your ninja walk. So essentially you want to bend your knees a bit, straighten your back, and walk heel to toe. I would say try not to lift your feet off the ground too much and keep your camera and gimbal towards your body as much as possible. When you move like this, your camera and gimbal essentially become the extension of you. It takes some practice, but if you think about it in this way, it will start to make sense. Any movement you make needs to be more than just moving your hands. It's really a complete body movement. You almost want to know what you're doing before it happens. So if you know you're going into a room, you want to be moving into a room and then gradually turning into the room. Everything is gradual, everything's a full body movement, and you kind of have to see things before they happen, have it mapped out. If you have enough space, you want to walk into a kitchen or a living room. When it comes to smaller rooms, you can slightly move forward, but also rotate to the left or rotate to the right and give that camera some movement. In post-production, you can reverse the direction of some clips to make it go right or instead of left, and vice versa. When it comes to bedrooms and bathrooms, if I have enough space, I'll try to walk into them and like rotate either to the left or the right. But honestly, if it's just like a bedroom and it's very small and tight, I don't usually try to move in because then it just makes the room feel smaller. So I'll literally stand at the door and kind of just gently move in, like just my hands, but I'm not moving my body, and just kind of moving in like that. So I'll show this in another clip, but just to give you an idea. So let's talk about gear I recommend. When it comes to cameras, I think a full frame camera will serve you best because it will let in the most light, which is essential for the various lighting conditions you will get on different days. If you can find a camera with a great dual native ISO, I feel that would be the best approach. The next thing you need is a gimbal. At this point, Xeon and DJI are the main two brands that make gimbals that are reliable and accepted by most people that do this professionally. I personally use DJI, but have heard great things from the recent Xeon Tech gimbals as well. The next thing you need is solid audio, and personally I recommend the DJI mics. I own the Tascam lav mics as well, but that extra step of syncing and post takes time. If you have an agent that messes up multiple times or wants to do a voiceover that's not written well, it becomes a bit of a headache. Some agents will show up to shoots and just kind of wing it, and sometimes it just means you're stuck sifting through all of that footage, and it's just not fun to have to sync that audio and find where it lines up. It can be a nightmare. I also recommend wireless mics without a lav because sometimes agents will wear something where you can put an audio pack on, so being able to just attach a small clip on will make your life a lot easier. Okay, so let's talk editing and deliverable. So personally, I use DaVinci Resolve. When it comes to editing, I would suggest setting your timeline to 30 frames per second and dropping all your footage on the timeline. Personally, I'm not a big fan of 24 frames per second for real estate. I personally find 30 frames per second to be the happy place of looking true to life, cinematic, and smooth. I would go through all your footage, cutting it up, deciding what you want to keep and what you want to delete. If you plan to do speed ramps, I would do them at this time as well and put those clips on the second video track and do your keyframing there. Once you have called all your footage and finished your speed ramps, the next thing to do is to highlight all your footage on the first video track and set the speed to 50 or 40%. You will now have all your clips in slow motion with a smooth look, and then the video on your second video track will be all the ones where you did like the keyframing. And the noise isolation tool works very well to remove light wind or background noise or clean up audio. If you want to go the extra mile and attach a lav mic to one of these, that's a great idea, but personally I don't. When it comes to DaVinci Resolve, you can use their voice isolation tool, you can add EQ. There's little things you can do, I'll show it on screen, to kind of make your audio sound nice and crisp. I do it for every single YouTube video. Make your life easy, work smart, don't work hard. After this, I would color correct and color grade all the clips in your video. If you're not great at this part, I would keep it super simple and use a conversion LUT or a color space transform for the second node, and another node or adjustment layer if you're on Premiere that's meant for color correction and color grading. When it comes to the conversion LUT, I personally use Phantom LUTs, the neutral one, or Gamut conversion LUTs. Gamut has an awesome conversion LUT that almost, to me, in my eyes, looking at it, looks kind of like Phantom LUTs. There's definitely something different, but Gamut makes a great conversion LUT. It will just depend on which camera you have. I've used both for Sony and Lumix, and I would say that Gamut has been awesome in terms of their conversion LUTs. I found these conversion LUTs to produce a great starting image and are both highly regarded by other content creators. In the color correction and grading node, I would suggest raising the overall exposure, followed by adjusting the midtones and raising the highlights if you need to. The last thing I usually do is add some contrast and saturation back into the image. Outside, I usually add more saturation, and the inside, I will usually add less saturation and might like move the highlights a little bit to blue, because I find I get too much of a yellowish orangish tint from like if the ground is like there's a lot of wood or stuff like that. I also might move the midtones a little bit to blue as well, and I usually end up with a nice balanced image, and that really just depends on like how the sunlight looks that day, or you know what the floors look like in that house, or the lighting. The lights will drastically change how you end up color grading, but it's really just kind of playing around with things and seeing what works. It really varies depending on what room you're in. There's some things where you have control over, like me being in here, I could tell you how I would color grade or color correct this image right here because I'm controlling the color temperature. But when you go into someone's house, it changes all the time. So it really just depends on a lot of different factors that will kind of dictate how your image is going to come out. But those are the main things I usually mess with. Another thing, if you go to the HSL thing here, you can also remove colors, like take colors out, like lower the saturation, hue versus saturation. You can lower the yellow or lower the green, or maybe lower the blue if it's just coming in like crazy. I live in Canada, and in the winter, when it's really bright outside and there's snow on the ground, I get a lot of blue hues, so I might drop the blue a little bit just to kind of minimize how that's coming in my image. Let's talk about how to get real estate agents to book you. When it comes to getting clients, I recommend direct communication. Cold calling or emailing is not effective anymore because there are so many companies that do that. If you want to stand out, it's better to reach out to these companies and offer to do a presentation at their office. This means you get to speak directly to your potential agents and show them the value in person. This will also be a good first impression where the agents get to see your work and what you have to offer. Think about a course you ended up buying and that feeling you get after an hour-long webinar. If you value stack and show value in person, it builds trust in a way that cold calling outreach just won't. I want to preface this by saying this isn't something that I can truly speak on, but it's just something I've heard constantly said. I have a friend that runs a very successful real estate company, and I know this is what he's done. And people know him by name, they know him personally, and I think that's what overall is going to make a big impact when people can feel you, hear you, and speak about you by how you are. It's because they met you in person, they know you, not just your work. And I think that will make a big difference and create like a loyalty between you and your clients. Again, I think the best way to do this is to have an editor that handles that part of the business to free up time for yourself to focus on the admin part of the business, getting more clients and taking care of yourself. And I say taking care of yourself because I've seen so many people burn out if they're trying to do this business just by themselves. This business takes a lot of time and effort, and if you want to be very good at it, you need to have a good team behind you. You need to have a good system in place. It's a very fast-paced industry, and I think if you don't have all the building blocks in place, then it's going to be very easy for you to burn out and you won't last. I personally, you know, I think when I started shooting real estate, my mindset was, I'm gonna make this just another thing that I film. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think real estate is something that you can kind of just do half effort. I feel like it's something you have to dedicate yourself to. And that's ultimately why I'm not making a company that does real estate video. I love weddings. I know I love weddings. I love the balance I have with, you know, I shoot one day and then I edit pretty much like 80% of the time. And I like that. That's great for me. It's great for my family. But with real estate, it's just kind of chaotic. If once you get busy, it's very hectic. For the past 2 years I've done it, I've borderline run myself into the ground because it's just like you shoot all day and then you come home and then you have to edit. You're following up with email. If you're doing it where you're doing the admin work, then you have to follow up with emails. Some people want edits done, they want changes. It's a whole business, man. So if you have a great team, it's good. But if you're doing it all yourself, it's very challenging. So I hope this video was helpful, and if you have any specific questions, please feel free to reach out. I am by no means the best when it comes to real estate, but I figured somebody will get something from this, and I didn't want to gatekeep this information behind like a paid course because there's enough of those out there. I eventually one day want to make a course, but I just want to put out there very clearly my teaching style and offer value where I can. So if you're doing weddings and you need a little bit of a side hustle, I think real estate's a good idea. I just feel like if you're gonna do it, I would try to see if you can work with another small real estate company. Just kind of work with someone else that is expanding rather than doing your own thing, because I really don't think you can do both. They're just two different beasts and require a lot of time and attention if you want to do either one of them well. But you could ask someone else, but that's just what I found. Hopefully you guys found this video informative. Take care, guys. This is Damon.